Hello, here's my tutorial for the Ghost shader. Here we have Senko. And you're going to get a file pack that looks like this when you put it into your Unity project. It's going to have depth-get, an example. Don't worry about anything else. First thing you're going to do, if you decide to put on your model, is grab the depth-get and place it onto the body under the family tree. Leave it there. Just don't touch it. Let it sit there and linger. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the shaders on our model. I don't know, wherever you want to go that is. So, here you go. What we're going to do is we're going to take all three shaders. And we're going to go to the Ghost shader. Now, there's three different render queues. 297 is for the last to disappear. And 29999 is the first to disappear. This is useful for things like emotes inside of your head or whatnot. That's where I found that it was the most useful to switch between these three. But usually you're okay with just putting them all into one thing, as long as you don't have that many materials on your model. The more you have, the more complicated it's going to become. Okay. Now, that needs textures. Here's the body. It's all the body. Close. And here. Okay. It's going to look like this. This doesn't look right. We don't want this. Go to your Ghost shader. Go to the example. Go ahead and copy the material properties. Go back to Control 3. Paste material properties. It's going to remove the textures again, so you might do that first if you feel preemptive enough. Just showing you what not to do. So this is what you're going to get it looking like. It looks alright. You can see they have a bunch of values on it, whatever, that change how it actually works. One thing to note is that you do not want to be able to see your clothes underneath. You always want the clothes to disappear last, so that people can't see under and whatnot. Especially when you have more materials, that makes it more complicated. So I'm gonna demonstrate the values real quick. Opacity, that's pretty obvious. Desaturation changes the color. Glow, fucking glowy. Fade distance, that is the distance it fades when you're inside an object. For instance, if we bring in a cube of size, put it into the model. Turn on lighting. You can see if I go to the close and I change the fade distance, that shows where it fades. Typically speaking, you want the fade distance for close to be lower than the fade distance on the body. Okay. We also have color, room color. That one you can just, I don't mess with this. That's if you just want to change how the outlines look. If you look different as a ghost. Actual color of the model. Room color mix. Don't worry about that. Distance, your fade distance. Typically speaking, you want your distance on your clothes to be higher than the ones on the body, so that the clothes fade last. You can see that everything's the same right now, and you can see in through that. So let's crank up the distance, turn up the opacity 1 on the clothes, and then crank the distance up to like 3.5, let's say. Now you can't see the underwear as easily. You can still kind of see it. You can keep messing with it. You get where you want, but if it's too high, it'll just make you look like you're just a floating jacket. So you have to make some compromises usually. Or you can mess with the body and make that fade earlier, of course. We have fade sharpness, the area in which gets faded, because your whole area doesn't get faded at once, just parts of you. You can adjust that and mess with that around. Usually I don't touch it too much. I usually do it on the body. So that's the basics. Mess it around, tinker with your model, put cubes in it to see how it looks. If it would be translucent, you have to make sure that all your materials are one and together if you actually want to be completely translucent. But typically, Opacity on clothes is 1, and body and face and whatnot and hair can be like 0.9, depending on the model. So here I have a finished version. Typically, this is what it would look like for me. You can see that, the hair, the distance it fades is, a bit different. I mean, here, I can just go through them slowly if you want to pause and take a look. Alphas are all the inside materials. Body is body, clothes, hair. And it looks pretty good. If you turn your lighting off, you're going to see this. That is just your fade distance. That's a better way to look at it. Don't worry about it. It's going to look like this in game. With the lighting on, lighting off, it's going to look like, don't worry about that. That's just a test fade distance and whatnot. And just for one last thing, we can put in a cube and take a look at it. Depending on what your fade distance is, depends on how translucent you'll be when you touch an object and how close you'll have to be. But you'll usually, it'll look like this, and it looks nice. You're a ghost. Congrats. You're dead. Stop messaging me on Discord.